Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and tonight our focus is on the NSA-level talks between India and Pakistan, which are hanging in the balance over both sides refusing to budge over the meeting of Kashmiri separatists with the Pakistani NSA. We'll have a detailed discussion on that as well during the show, but first the headlines that we're tracking right now. Deadlock continues over India-Pakistan NSA-level talks. Both sides refuse to budge over Sartaj Aziz's proposed meeting with Kashmiri separatists. The rupee falls to a two-year low of nearly 66 to a dollar in response to global sell-off across emerging markets. The stock markets react with a fall of nearly 600 points over 2 days. The Gujarat High Court puts a stay on state government's order to make voting mandatory in civic elections. And North and South Korea exchange gunfire along the border. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un orders frontline military units into wartime state. The top story this evening, a shadow looms large over the upcoming Indo-Pakistan NSA-level talks as both sides stick to their stands over Sartaj Aziz's proposed meeting with Kashmiri separatists. Now, even as India advised Pakistan against meeting the separatists, Islamabad said the talks would go ahead and asked New Delhi not to dictate terms to it. However, India has toughened its stance, virtually putting the ball in Pakistan's court.
India has made it clear to Pakistan that a meeting between its NSA Sartaj Aziz and Kashmiri separatist leaders was unacceptable. Pakistan insists that consultations with Hurriyat leaders is a routine affair. India opposes this, saying the forthcoming talks are not on Kashmir but on terror. India also maintains that Hurriyat has no role in the formal dialogue.
The NSAs were to meet to discuss all issues connected to terrorism. This was the only agenda set for them by the two prime ministers. The insistence on meeting Hurriyat as a precondition is also a complete departure from the UFA understanding. India has always held the position that there are only two stakeholders in our relationship, not three.
Earlier, Pakistan had said the talks would go ahead as planned and that India could not dictate terms to Pakistan, saying that Indo-Pak talks were not based on conditional diplomacy. Pakistan also accused India of running away from talks.
Meeting with Kashmiri leaders is common practice before consultations and talks between the two countries whenever they take place.
Why you are telling that you will not be allowed to be a part of that process where India and Pakistan want to discuss Kashmir? Do you think that Kashmiri people are animals, that you will decide their fate?
With both sides sticking to their positions, there is a shadow on the talks. The two NSAs are scheduled to meet in New Delhi on August 23rd. The agenda for the talks was decided when the prime ministers of both countries met last month in Ufa in Russia. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, amid the tussle between India and Pakistan over the Kashmiri separatist issue, the Congress has criticized the NDA government over its policy with regard to the NSA-level talks with Pakistan. The main opposition party has attacked the Prime Minister, saying his government has no clear policy in dealing with Pakistan. Meanwhile, the BJP is cautious about the centre's strategy over the Pak's NSA's meeting with the separatists. The party left it to the Ministry of External Affairs to take a final call on whether the meeting should be allowed to take place. However, it clarified that the focus of the NSA-level talks should be on the issue of terror. Parties in the valley are also split on the meeting of the Pak NSA with the separatists.
Why should Modi often try to talk on one side? Because the other side is not ready to talk. Whatever his foreign policy he is trying to do, one by one they are failing.
The government of India, most unfortunately, is making itself a laughing spectacle in its management of talkers even before the talks have started.
What is Hurriyat going to gain? 1 hour talk, what are we going to achieve? Our people are still dying. whether on this side of the border or that side of the border.
What is important is that we are talking. How and when and where we should talk is a secondary question. And so before talking to Hurriyat, after talking to Hurriyat, I think these are not the issues that should forecast our effect.
The agenda of this NSA level talk was finalized in the UFA meeting between the two Prime Ministers. And this NSA meeting is only to talk on terror.
There's no question of a third-party intervention, and possibly on that end, India has issued an advisory to Pakistan to refrain from meeting the Hurriyat leaders. But having said that, the principle is very clear. Talks with terror is not possible.
And Happymon Jacob, Associate Professor at JNU, now joins us to help us understand. Happymon, as far as the talks right now are concerned, I mean, they're poised virtually the same way the Foreign Secretary level talks were poised right before they were called off. So how do you see this issue panning out?
You know, I should say that I am completely shocked and amazed by the utterly immature and infantile manner in which the two countries are conducting their diplomacy and attempting to discuss issues of national security of great importance. The reality is that diplomacy in its essence has to have a great deal of flexibility and leverage given to both sides so that they can creatively explore new options. At this point of time, even if the talks take place on Sunday, I don't think there is anything that is going to come out of this kind of a dialogue, given the very vicious environment that in which this talk is going to be conducted on Sunday. The casualty, of course, is the ceasefire agreement, which is flaring up every day. We have and we have people on both sides of India and Pakistan getting killed on a daily basis. We have soldiers on both sides getting killed on a daily basis. And there will be absolutely no understanding or agreement reached on the question of terrorism in the meeting on Sunday. So I think that is the bitter truth. The Islamic State. Let's sort of sit back and take a look at the larger strategic picture. The Islamic State is waiting at the gates. It's a major problem for India. Are we achieving anything out of this kind of a?
All right. So you're saying that the Indian side also should have gone ahead with more caution?
I think both India and Pakistan have to be faulted. I am a student of diplomacy, and I would say that both India and Pakistan have committed serious mistakes in the run-up to this particular engagement. On the Indian side, I don't think it was necessary to publicly declare a red line to the Pakistani side that if you meet the Hurriyat before you talk to us, we will not have any dialogue with you. I think that was unnecessary. We gave unnecessary importance to the Hurriyat. The Hurriyat was nowhere in the picture in Jammu and Kashmir for the last 5 years. Suddenly they have become very important thanks to our own handling of the situation. And on the Pakistani side, I think the Pakistanis have been for the last couple of years trying to raise the Kashmir issue in various forums and sort of bring up the Kashmir issue unnecessarily and vitiate the atmosphere. And also Nawaz Sharif government today is clearly under pressure from Rawalpindi, the general headquarters of the Pakistan Army, because he did not mention the K word in the UFA declaration when the two prime ministers met in Rajya. So I think both sides have to be faulted for this very ugly turn of events.
All right, but given the fact that you're already pointing out that not much, even if a discussion takes place, not much might come out of it. As far as that entire India-Pakistan peace process goes, that seems to be going for a 6 because we have continuous ceasefire violations that are happening, infiltration attempts, terror. The valley itself is a little vulnerable, don't you think, right now?
Yeah, I think the valley itself is, it has been calm for some time now, and this fragile peace in Kashmir, in the Kashmir Valley, is also going to be impacted thanks to the negative policies that the two sides are sort of following. For a very long time, we saw a lot of peace and reconciliation within Jammu and Kashmir, and Hurriyat, one way or the other, is not a violent party to the conflict, and they have been playing a not so negative role within Kashmir. So I think we need to make a differentiation between Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Hurriyat Conference. Hurriyat Conference is not a terrorist organization, like many media or political personalities in India would like to portray them. They are a political organization. Tomorrow they might even contest the elections. I think the Indian state should nudge them towards conducting or fighting the elections in Jammu and Kashmir, which they probably would one day if we sort of steer them towards that kind of a direction.
All right, Happy Mon, we leave it over there, but thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand how these countries are poised as far as the NSA level talks go. And it certainly seems that all hangs in the fire as of now. Just a few hours to go, in fact, a little over 24 hours to go before the NSAs meet. So let's wait and watch as to what happens in that. Now, moving on, the rupee fell to a two-year low on Friday in response to a global sell-off across emerging markets. It had an impact on the stock markets too, which saw a fall of nearly 600 points in the last 2 days. The rupee hit 66 against the dollar before recovering marginally.
Rupee continues to slump further over fears of a currency war after China's devaluation of yuan. Friday saw rupee fall further, touching almost 66 against the dollar. After closing at 65.54 on Thursday, rupee slumped in early trade on Friday. However, it recovered marginally towards the end. This is a two-year low for the currency, which has seen a fall of over 3% since China devalued yuan. It had an impact on the stock markets too. After losing over 300 points on Thursday, Sensex shed over 400 points during intraday trade. However, it ended 242 points down by the end of the day. Nifty also shed over 70 points.
Chinese factory output data has shrank at its fastest pace in the 6.5 years past. With all this negativity in China, now what the world is apprehending is that perhaps there would be question marks on global economic growth.
On Thursday, RBI Chief Raghuram Rajan had allayed fears of the yuan devaluation hitting the economy. However, he reminded that depreciation in the currency due to policy changes is a worrisome trend in the global central banks. His views were also echoed by Japan's finance minister, who warned China against manipulating its currency to its own benefit.
ある日突然日本と政府が介入してくるなんていうのが頻繁に起こると、これはちょいとなかなか我々としても難しい対応を迫られることになりますので。
The dollar too has weakened against other major global currencies for the past few weeks. All eyes are now on the US Federal Reserve, which will announce its interest rates next month. There are doubts if it can safely raise rates amid global economic slowdown worries. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, both retail and wholesale prices are both currently set to be at a historic low, but it seems not when it comes to the onion prices. Now, Delhi consumers are buying onions at almost 80 rupees a kilo this week, and what's more, the situation is unlikely to get any better for the next 2 months at least.
The central government is importing 10,000 tons of onions, a decision that is expected to reduce prices. Experts, however, say the expectation may be misplaced.
You will see that onion prices will remain on the higher side. In between, some softening might happen as soon as the imported onion starts becoming available in the market. But really, the prices will come to the normal level maybe only after, say, a gap of about 1.5 to 2 months, not before that.
In India's biggest onion market, Nashik, onions are selling at two-year high of 4,900 rupees a quintal. Maharashtra alone accounts for nearly 30% of onion production in the country. In July, retail inflation touched a record low of 3.78%. Wholesale inflation, on the other hand, was lower at minus 4.05%. Onions, however, still remained a scarce commodity as unseasonal rains pushed down supplies from 194 lakh tons in 2013-14 to 189 lakh tons in 2014-15. In the Rabi season between last October and March this year, onion production also declined from 28 lakh tons in July to 14 lakh tons in August. Latest reports now say the floods in the eastern states and a drought-like situation in western India have impacted vegetable crops.
Some of the perishable commodities like vegetables, if the vegetable crops go in some of because Bengal, for instance, is a high vegetable producing state. If they have to import from other states, then the overall price situation will be bad. So the prices will rise.
North India's biggest wholesale market for fruits and vegetables, Azadpur Mandi is getting 1,000 tons of onions from Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh daily. It is also getting onions from Afghanistan. But prices are expected to rise further as shipments of fresh imports will take time to arrive. This is Krishnanand Tripathi's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The Gujarat High Court has stayed the state government's order making voting mandatory in civic polls. In a response to a petition filed by Advocate K.R. Kosti, the court stayed the state government's notification of compulsory voting till final disposal of the case. The Gujarat government had planned to make voting mandatory in civic and panchayat elections to be held in October this year and also proposed to impose a fine of 100 rupees on those who did not vote.
Right to vote and electoral right, whether I want to vote or I want to refrain from voting, that is the electoral right, yet it cannot be made compulsorily because it violates the Article 14 as well as the 19(1)(g) of the Constitution of India.
Time now for us to take a very quick break, but coming up on the other side, ahead of the snap polls in Greece, rebel MPs split from the ruling party to form a new entity. More on that on the other side.
One rank, one pension. A complicated, festering issue, repeatedly evading a solution. What makes OROP so difficult to bring to fruition? Watch The Big Picture at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, a three-member delegation of the INB ministry met agitating students at FTII's Pune campus today. They also held meetings with the director and faculty members in a bid to find a solution to the 72-day-old crisis over the appointment of Chairman Gajendra Chauhan. The talks went on for several hours, post which both sides are optimistic that the matter will be resolved soon. The delegation will submit a detailed report to the INB ministry by Monday.
We had a very elaborate discussion within the time frame of about 2 hours, wherein they wanted to know what aspects with respect to the working of the institute, how do the students picture in all of this, what are the concerns of the students with respect to their academics and their larger well-being on campus. All of this was very fairly heard by the panel. We are hoping that from now on things can be worked out in a better environment.
Discussion with all the stakeholders was in a very, very cordial atmosphere. Everything was discussed in detail. They were also quite satisfied with discussions. We are also satisfied with discussions, and we will submit our report to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting very soon.
Let's now get you some more news and updates from around the country and nationwide. In a relief to the Maran brothers, the Supreme Court stayed Enforcement Directorate's proceedings to attach their assets in the SL Maxis case. The ED had ordered provisional attachment of all the assets of Sun TV, worth over 742 crores, allegedly linked to the deal under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Earlier, the Madras High Court had dismissed Maran's appeal seeking stay on the order. The Maharashtra government has increased security cover for activist Anna Hazare to Z category. The decision was taken after the activist received at least 2 threat letters this month. The letter also asked Hazare to stay put in his native village, Ralegaon Sidhi. Exiled Bangladeshi author Taslima Nasreen's visa was extended by another year by the Home Ministry. The decision was taken after the author requested the government to be allowed to continue her stay in India. Taslima has been living in exile since she left Bangladesh in 1994 in the wake of threats to her by fundamentalist groups. Thousands of villagers left their homes as heavy rainfall continued to batter flood-hit Assam. The state has been receiving heavy rainfalls for the past 2 days, resulting in floods in many areas. Over 3 lakh people have been affected due to the flooding. Army was called in to assist the administration and provide relief to the victims. The second forum for India-Pacific Islands Cooperation Summit was held in Jaipur today. Heads of state of as many as 14 nations took part in the summit. Speaking at the forum, Prime Minister Narendra Modi pushed for closer cooperation between India and the Pacific Island countries. He also announced the establishment of the FIPIC Trade Office at FICCI in Delhi. He also made a strong pitch for concrete and effective outcome to meet the global challenge of climate change.
Climate change is an existential threat to the Pacific Islands. It is also taking a toll on the teeming millions on India's shoreline of 7,500 kilometers and its nearly 1,300 islands. We both seek a concrete and effective outcome on climate change at COP21 in Paris late this year. We work together for a separate goal on climate change in the substantial development goals and in a manner that addresses the interests of developing countries.
Some international news now. Tensions are high between North and South Korea as both countries exchange gunfire along their border. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has now ordered frontline military units to enter a wartime state. South Korea too has put its military on high alert, ordering it to retaliate if there is more provocation from the north.
War games on the Korea's borders. North and South Korea exchanged gunfire across their heavily fortified border on Thursday. Tension escalated when North Korea fired shells into the south to protest against anti-Pyongyang propaganda broadcasts. The south responded with a barrage of 29 artillery shells. In an emergency meeting, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered his troops onto a war footing from 5 p.m. on Friday. Pyongyang has also issued an ultimatum to Seoul to halt anti-North propaganda broadcast by Saturday afternoon or face military action.
조선인민군 총참모부는 20일 괴뢰 국방부에 48시간 안으로 재개한 대북 심리전 방송을 중지하고 모든 심리전 수단들을 전면적으로 철거하지 않는다면 그 즉시 강력한 군사적 행동으로 넘어가게 된다는 최후 통첩을 들이댄 바 있습니다.
Refusing to back down, a South Korean military official said the broadcasts would continue. President Park Geun-hye visited the military command post in Yongin, ordering the military to sternly retaliate if there were more provocations from North Korea.
군은 북한의 추가 도발에 대해서 한치의 빈틈도 없는 즉각 대응 태세를 유지하기를 바라고 또 상황이 발생했을 때는 선 조치 후 보고하기를 바랍니다.
The UN has expressed serious concerns over the fresh tensions. The US military, which has over 28,000 personnel in South Korea, also said it is closely monitoring the situation. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Over to Greece now, where rebel MPs from the governing Syriza party have announced their decision to split and form a new party. This after the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras announced his decision to step down. The new party is called the Popular Unity Party and is currently the third largest in parliament. The opposition now has a shot at forming the next government or face snap elections.
Political circles in Greece are brewing with activity. Less than 24 hours after Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras resigned, rebels from his own left-wing Syriza party have formed a new outfit, the Popular Unity Party. 25 rebel Syriza MPs are believed to have joined the new party that will be led by former Energy Minister Panagiotis Lafazanis, who had strongly opposed Tsipras' handling of the bailout deal with European leaders.
Επιθυμούμε και δηλώνουμε ότι η επωνυμία της συγκροτούμενης κοινοβουλευτικής ομάδας είναι λαϊκή ενότητα. Αρχηγός και πρόεδρος της συγκροτούμενης κοινοβουλευτικής ομάδας είναι ο κύριος Παναγιώτης Λαφαζάνης του Γεωργίου, βουλευτής Β' Περιφέρειας Πειραιώς.
Στους πρώτους άξονες των προγραμματικών μας δεσμεύσεων έχουμε την ακύρωση των μνημονίων ως προϋπόθεση για να μπορέσει η χώρα μας να βγει από την κρίση. Έχουμε τη διαγραφή του μεγαλύτερου μέρους του χρέους, στόχος το οποίος είναι εφικτότατος, αρκεί να τον παλέψουμε, να τον πιστέψουμε και να τον παλέψουμε.
Tsipras had lost the support of several of his MPs who openly criticized his policies and negotiations on the bailout deal. The head of the main opposition New Democracy Party also met with Greece's president on Friday morning. His party has been given 3 days to prove its mandate and form a government. But with numbers unlikely to be on their side and not enough allies, the president could approve snap elections for 20th of September.
Να δούμε αν μπορούμε να βρούμε μια ουσιαστική σοβαρή πολιτική λύση από την παρούσα Βουλή, ώστε να αποφύγουμε αυτή τη στιγμή όλα αυτά τα αρνητικά τα οποία μπορεί να προκαλέσει για πάρα πολύ χρόνο η εκλογική αυτή διαδικασία, η οποία κατά τη γνώμη μου δεν βοηθάει σε τίποτα.
As for Tsipras, the snap elections will be a test for him as he tries to regain popularity among the Greeks. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Time now for all the other international news stories in Global Buzz. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced snap polls which are expected on the 1st of November. Voters will go to the polls again after PM Ahmed abandoned efforts to form a coalition government. His party lost its 12-year majority rule in Turkey in the elections in June, largely because of the success of the pro-Kurdish HDP. UNF leader Ranil Wickremesinghe took oath as Sri Lanka's Prime Minister today. It will be his fourth stint in the post. His party defeated the United People's Freedom Alliance by winning 106 seats in the 225-member parliament. The UPFA won 95. The Macedonian government declared a state of emergency in the two border regions to cope with growing number of migrants. More than 1,000 migrants arrived on Friday in a Greek town of Idomeni, hoping to cross into neighbouring Macedonia. The army was called in to confront the refugees trying to reach Western Europe. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott is considering a formal request from the United States for Australia to join airstrikes against the Islamic State in Syria. The Royal Australian Air Force is already involved in bombing IS targets in Iraq, but its aerial role has so far been limited to refueling and intelligence gathering. Some sports now. In India piled up 393 runs in their first innings in the second test against Sri Lanka today. In reply, the hosts ended the day 440 for 3, still trailing by 253 runs. The hosts lost opener Karunaratne early to Umesh Yadav, but Kumar Sangakkara and Kausal Silva combined together for a 74-run second wicket partnership. Sangakkara, playing in his last test, was caught on 32. Earlier, India added 74 runs to their overnight total. Wicketkeeper Ridhiman Saha's half-century was supported by Amit Mishra to help the visitors reach closer to the 400 mark. Rangana Herat picked up 4 wickets for the Lankans.
Very good. Just started playing shots because of it. And also got to his half-century.
Time now for all the other sporting action in Sports Beat. The Madras High Court has issued notice to the BCCI on a petition by Chennai Super Kings alleging its suspension from the IPL. The owner of the CSK has also sought a stay on the Justice Lodha Committee's order last month. It also contended that the order was against the fundamental principles of natural justice and fair hearing. Stephen Smith's 100 helped Australia pile up 481 runs in the first innings of the final Ashes Test. Smith and Adam Voges put up a 146-run stand for the fourth wicket. Mitchell Stark's quick-fire 50 also propelled the visitors' total. Moeen Ali, Stephen Finn and Ben Stokes took 3 wickets each. England were 30 for 1 when tea was taken. Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer moved to the quarterfinals of the Cincinnati Open. Top seed Djokovic came back from a double breakdown in the third set to defeat David Goffin 6-4, 2-6, 6-3. Meanwhile, defending champion Roger Federer cruised past Kevin Anderson in straight sets. 14-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal missed out on the quarter-final berth at the Cincinnati Masters after losing to compatriot Feliciano Lopez. Nadal took the first set but lost the third set in a tiebreak. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.